Hello everyone, what's up? Front End Tips here. Welcome to another very exciting tutorial. Today we're going to be taking a look at how we can create a toggle switch menu, the one that I'm going to show you in this video. So what we're making right now is creating a toggle switch which transitions from like the off represented by this icon to the on. You probably have seen a lot of toggle switch. Usually, toggle switches, they're usually in the mobile, in the preferences, but people start using that in their settings, as an admin dashboard or, whatever settings they want to add for the website they have for customizing things, turning things on and off. Basically, my idea was that I'm creating some sort of a smart home at my apartment right now, and there are a lot of things like, you know, TV, like lamps, different lamps in different rooms. I want to turn them on and off. So I have created this cool toggle menu, and today we're going to be building this, but not exactly this. This is going to be a tutorial series. So I'm going to start with a simple toggle switch, and in the next tutorial, we're going to enhance it to become something like this. Now let's get started. So as always, I go to codehus.com/codeit and create a new prototype. So let's get started. In the HTML, I write div and then I'll give it a class switch. And then inside the switch, I'll create an input and the type I want it to be checkbox, right? And then exactly after the input, I'll create a label element, and you can see it has a for attribute, and this for attribute refers to whatever input that this guy is the label for, right? So what it really does, for those of you who do not know, if I create a given ID to this input, let's call it checkbox1, and then I basically reference it in the for, and it's important to know that you should assign the ID of the input, not the class. So ID, and then use that, reference that in the for of the label. So if I just type checkbox1, what happens here is that, well, obviously by clicking on this checkbox, you can turn it on and off, or basically check and uncheck it. But then also, if you have the label with the for attribute referencing the ID of the input, or this one, if you click on this, it pretty much checks and unchecks the relevant or the respective checkbox, right? So just a note for you to know. So I'm going to remove this for now. And this is pretty much the HTML that you basically need for the input. What I'm going to do for the toggle switch, what I'm going to do now in the CSS, I'm going to just, give it a margin of 30 pixel. So get a little bit distance of borders. And then what I'm going to do is basically coming here, saying switch in the CSS and then input. And I want to say the type of my input is checkbox, right? And then what I will do is that I will set the visibility to hidden. Boom. So that guy is removed now. Now I know that I have the label. What I'm going to do now is switch label. Uh, and then I will say, okay, I want the label to have a width of maybe 50 pixel and then height of 23 pixel, background of, let's say, EEE. And then I want the position to be absolute. As you can see now, you can see it. It's important that you set the position to absolute. And then I want the top to be 0 and left to be 0. So the problem right now is that even though I created a margin 30 pixel for the switch, you still see that when I'm styling the label within the switch, it goes to 0, 0 relative to the page, right? Or the output page. What you really need to do here is that you have to, in the parent class, which is in this case for the label is the switch div, or the div with the class switch, I have to decide to assign position to be relative, right? Now you can see that we still have the padding, and this guy's position, top 0, left 0, is relevant now to its parent. So it's very important to set the position relative, right? And obviously I'm going to give it a border radius of, let's say, 20 pixel. So now it looks kind of like round and nice. And now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to say switch label, and using pseudo elements, I'm going to say after. I'm going to give the content to nothing. That's how you define the content of the pseudo element after here. So I don't want it to be anything. Since I know that my height is 23 pixel, I'm going to give this guy width of 21 pixel and height of 21 pixel, right? Changing the position to absolute so that I can freely move it in my switch div. And then I'll set top to be 1 pixel and left to be 1 pixel, right? Since the height is 23, I know that by defining 21, I still have 1 pixel and 1 pixel from top and left to play with, to position it within this, right? In a nice way. So now what I need to do is to give it a background, or the background color of FFF, and then give it a border radius of 50%, right? Now you can see that I have this quite nice sort of round toggle trigger basically. And then what in this case, what I really want to do is that I'm going to just increase this. Let's just say 24 by 24, right? And then this guy comes a little, because it's bigger than the height, I'm going to just move it up a little bit. So minus maybe 2 or minus 1. And then maybe let's just make it 26 and 26. So it's quite big. And then just to make sure that I have this circle visible, I'm going to say box shadow, and then I'll say 0 on the x-axis, 0 on the y-axis. 4 pixel is the radius of my shadow, and then I want the color to be RGBA 0, 0, 0, and then opacity to be 0.2, right? Maybe even 0.3. Now you can see that it's nicely visible. So 000 stands for RGB0, which is for dark. And then I set the opacity to 0.3. And this value, its number is between 0 and 1. So if I set it to 1, you're going to see it's like totally black. I'm going to say 0.2% of the black value, or maybe 4. Yeah, much better. Now, obviously, I want to set the cursor, not maybe, yeah, cursor to be pointer, so that whenever I move on this, the cursor becomes the pointer. So now we have pretty much the original or the off state of the switch already. Now what I want to do is that when you click on this, I want it to move, right? So the way to achieve that, since we have an input type checkbox, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to say, obviously starting with the switch, and then input type checkbox. And then when it's checked, and this is important, when it's checked, I want the next element, which is label. And as you know, this guy here is the pseudo element after of the label, which is the next element of the input. So in terms of siblings, right, if we have this parent, which we have switched, so this guy is the next sibling to the input. So whenever I click on it and it's checked, I want the next element or the next sibling, which I noted with plus, and then say label, and then obviously this circle is the after, right? So what happens here is that if this input is checked, I want the pseudo element after of the label exactly one sibling after the input, which is denoted by this plus, to basically set the left, because left is now, let's just put it -1. Now I want the left, knowing that the width of the label is 50, I'm just going to put 40 pixel. Let's see what happens. Now if I click on it, you can see that it basically the left becomes 40. Let's make it 30. Yep, maybe even less, so 26. Let's see how it looks. Yeah, much better, right? So now you can see that we created our toggle element. Now basically what I want to do right now, it kind of jumps because the left is -1, and when I click on it, which effectively makes this checkbox to be on or checked, it basically sets the left to 26 and it kind of jumps. So I need to define a transition here and set it to all, let's say, and then give the timing to be 0.3 seconds, right? Now, if I click on it, you can see that I have this very nice kind of transition, right? So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't. This is the starting point of the tutorial series, which we're gonna build this guy, which looks pretty cool, right? I'm gonna put the link of these both prototypes, both this one and this one in the description of this video. And I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. So stay tuned until the next tutorial, which comes in a couple of days. Have a good day and night. Bye.